It was supposed to be a normal birthday hike. My boyfriend and I, not typically swayed by superstition, found ourselves gripped by an inexplicable anxiety. The forest seemed to close in around us, whispering secrets of shadows and unseen dangers. Despite our trepidation, we pressed on, hoping to shake off the growing sense of dread that clung to us like a persistent fog. Hours passed, each step leading us deeper into the heart of the wilderness. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the trail, our fears intensified. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of our own ragged breaths and the occasional rustle of leaves in the breeze. And then, just as we reached the edge of the forest, we saw it, a cabin nestled among the trees like a forgotten relic of a bygone era. Its weathered facade loomed ominously in the fading light, a silent sentinel guarding the secrets within. As we approached, a figure emerged from the shadows, a man, wild-eyed and disheveled, bearing a striking resemblance to Tom Hanks in Cast Away. But there was something primal and unsettling about him, a feral energy that sent shivers down my spine. He emerged from the cabin, naked and brandishing a knife, his movements erratic and unpredictable. I felt the blood drain from my face as I whispered a warning to my boyfriend. But before we could react, the man was upon us, his grunts filling the air like a cacophony of madness. With a surge of adrenaline, my boyfriend urged me to run, and run we did, our hearts pounding in our chests as we fled into the dark embrace of the forest. I stumbled and fell, the underbrush tearing at my skin, but I dared not stop, for fear of what lurked behind us. It felt like an eternity, our breath coming in ragged gasps as we raced through the trees, but finally, blessedly, we emerged into the safety of a neighborhood, the distant glow of streetlights guiding our way. We collapsed onto the pavement, hearts still racing, minds reeling from the horrors we had witnessed. We reported the man to the police, but as we waited for their response, a chilling thought crept into my mind. What if the cabin, and the man who dwelled within, held secrets far darker than we could ever imagine? It was a Friday night like any other, or so I thought. Exhausted from the week's grind, I crawled into bed early, knowing I had to be up at the crack of dawn for work the next day. I cracked open a book, hoping to unwind before sleep claimed me, drifting off around 10:30 p.m. But my tranquility was shattered around an hour later, when screams pierced the silence, tearing through the night like a banshee's wail. Confused and disoriented, I stumbled out of bed thinking my girlfriend had cranked up the volume on some late-night flick. However, the living room was eerily quiet, except for the muffled shouts seeping through the walls. My girlfriend stood frozen, her eyes wide with fear, fixated on the front door. The voices, laced with venomous curses, echoed from the lobby just beyond. My first thought was that it was some kind of domestic dispute, but after listening I realized it was a group of men that sounded extremely aggressive. The country I live in is experiencing a marked uptick in crime, and I had heard stories of armed groups of men robbing entire apartment blocks, but these stories seemed so disingenuous to me. Me and my girlfriend's eyes still fixated on the door, I felt a vibrate in my pocket as I started to fumble for my phone. A WhatsApp group chat notification that every tenant in the building is in. My worst fears materialized. Armed intruders were among us, prowling the corridors with malice in their hearts. The surge in crime plaguing our city had become all too real, too close to home. A chill ran down my spine as I imagined the horrors those men could unleash. Would they storm our door, guns blazing, ready to plunder our meager belongings? My loyal dog's growl snapped me from my thoughts, a grim reminder of the danger lurking outside. I quickly shushed my dog, and thankfully he obeyed. As chaos erupted above, I ventured onto the patio, heart pounding in my chest. The air crackled with tension as I listened to the sounds of destruction, a symphony of terror orchestrated by unseen hands. I heard what sounded like a large piece of furniture being knocked over, and women and children screaming in terror. With each passing moment, dread coiled tighter around my gut. My girlfriend and I sought refuge in a tiny shed, huddled together like frightened children, clutching our phones like lifelines. Outside, our faithful dog stood guard, his eyes ablaze with primal instinct. Minutes stretched into eternity until the screech of tires shattered the night. Was it possible? The armed men fled our apartment complex. Eventually, someone in the group chat said the police had arrived. With trembling hands, I emerged from hiding and began venturing out into the aftermath. The lobby told a tale of violence and fear, the remnants of a battle waged in the dead of night. Zip ties lay strewn across the floor, discarded like broken promises. The security guard, battered and bloodied, exchanged hushed words with a tenant who had a large gash on their face and looked extremely shaken. In the hours that followed, the truth emerged. The man I saw, with the gash on his face, was the tenant in the upstairs apartment, the one that I had heard the commotion coming from. He was the owner of an import-export business, and for whatever reason, had a large amount of cash hidden in his apartment. Someone found out about it and planned the robbery that woke me from my sleep on Friday night. A group of 8 men had followed him into the apartment building's garage and ambushed him as he got out of his car. After that, the group of men arrived in the lobby, surprised and beaten the security guard, and zip-tied him. Group then made its way up to the apartment, robbed it, and then fled the scene. It is fairly chilling to think that armed men were mere meters from my front door, a terrifying reminder that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places.